I am ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Hey there, welcome to Motorcycles and Misfits, coming to you from the Recycle Garage in sunny Santa Cruz, California. Hey everyone, this is your fearless leader. I am Liza, and with us on the cast today, Bagel, you're keeping track. What episode of Corona Cast is this?
Oh, I believe this would be episode 14, if I'm not mistaken.
Jeez, 14 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
at least.
there you go. We've got Bagel.
And the number is 4 to 14.
Oh, I know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Hold that thought. We'll get right to that in a second.
Yeah.
And giving us a new angle in his apartment, so we know he doesn't live in just a tiny kitchen. It's Knock.
What's up? How you doing? Motorcycles and Misfits. Woo-hoo!
Knock, you got off the Percocet, didn't you?
Yeah, I was off the hydrocodones a while ago. I'm on just edibles now.
I knew there was some change.
Yeah. How is it feeling now, Knock? You can actually lift your arm, right?
Yeah, I can put my arm at my shoulder height. It's just the atrophy, and like I think I've got another 2.5, 3 weeks until it's fully like solid bone. Like I'm like totally deformed though, you know. Like you love something so much, let it deform you. And I'm like, I'm not a fan of Bukowski, but that's like what's happened, you know. So yeah, but I'm doing pretty good. I did a little renovating in my apartment, and I was able to lift stuff, and I was totally exhausted after an hour and a half. Just like, you know, I was like barely moving 10 yards, like, you know, within the vicinity of my home, and it was just exhausting. But other than that, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
Good. And then coming to us from his shed, and watch out if there's a cat behind you. It's Jim.
Hey, what's happening? There's whiz one up there in the tires, I will say. Yeah, peace, love, and soul. I'm doing great. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've learned to keep looking above your head because sometimes a cat will appear.
Oh, no, it will. I just heard something. It could be a raccoon, too. I got them. That's usually a nighttime thing. Now you got me looking. I don't know what's going to land on your head in here.
And then joining us today, a misfit for the day, it's John.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
Oh,
Hey,
there it is.
you've been whistled. You're official now.
I'm rocking the appropriate shirt.
Yeah, there he is.
Nice.
So now you got to, now with Knock here, you got to say, get well, Knock.
Oh, that's true. Get well knocked.
Thank you.
Arm up and down.
And so, John, this was a little Father's Day weekend that you got, and it included coming and visiting us and being a misfit on the show.
Well, thanks for letting me join your team for a short time.
And who can you thank for that?
I can thank, I believe, my daughter, Brianna.
Exactly. She reached out and asked if you could come visit and join us and put it all together. She was supposed to keep it a secret, but apparently she couldn't. She leaked it.
There was some leakage involved, yes, definitely.
But it was so great for you to come by and tell us what you were riding today.
Today, a Triumph Tiger 800.
It looks like a pretty decent, legit bike. The Tiger, the 1200, does look like a giant tank, but that 800 looks pretty capable of just about anything. And you're doing some touring on it too, right?
Right, yeah. I've had it since new in 2013. And to your point exactly, I used to have a big GS, and I was kind of wanting a capable bike but small.
So you give the 800 your seal of approval then, huh?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's done like 50,000 miles or so. It's ridden 3 or 4 countries. It's
Nice.
really great. Really happy with it.
Hell yeah. What countries were you going with it on?
Well, North America took advantage of Canada and Mexico. It's been in Baja a few times. A couple times. It's been a great bike, both on-road and off-road. We did some dirt roads in Baja.
You know, you should take advantage of the opportunity to go visit another country right now and go visit Chop.
Chop? Yeah.
Where
It's
Really?
Chaz. Is it Chaz Chop?
Really?
It got changed to Chop.
Is it Chaz?
Yeah, Chaz is now Chop, just so you know.
Yeah.
But hey, you have a country in our country. You can go visit. Not that one. They must have a sticker by now, right?
Oh, for sure.
They've got a website.
That's made up. Yeah.
They've got a
gotta be real
website. They
country.
got
It's
the
got a
whole. They
website.
got live feeds. The whole thing, man. It's wild.
Too cool.
Hey, and joining us, looking all pretty, Miss Lydia Skidmark herself. It's Miss Emma.
Aloha, darlings.
Hey.
Hello.
Emma, you
Hey.
come tenfold strong.
Knock, how you doing, darling?
Doing good. I was mobile and strong enough to do some rearranging of the apartment and using power tools and cutting wood and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, I was exhausted by the end of it, but I'm more mobile now. So thank you for asking.
No, you're welcome, and you're able to go potty by yourself.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
very good.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
important,
I've
darling.
been getting tired of coming over there and wiping your ass.
You have a power washer. I'm just saying, man. You have to stand that close. You know what I'm saying?
Power washer and a wire brush.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good.
No, we've worked it out. We are being safe and doing social distancing. He hangs his ass out his second floor window, and I just shoot right up.
Oh my God.
Do you have to wear a mask when you do that?
Oh yeah,
Right.
oh yeah.
Yeah, you need lots of protective gear.
It's the sight to behold. My neighbors love it.
So let's go back to Bagel. So you said 4 of 14. Does everyone else know what that means?
What?
I do.
4 to 14
What?
is the ratio.
4
to
to 14.
14 is the ratio of running to non-running bikes in my garage.
Hey, Bagel, that's
All
a good number.
Oh,
Make
that's
it
right,
again.
because you got the HE111 running today, didn't you?
Well, the 103A2, exactly, yes.
Oh, sorry, darling.
Yes, my Heinkel lives again. I just got it running the other night and took it out for the first time today
Cheers.
and brought it over to the garage.
That thing looks like a prop from Flash Gordon.
Pretty much, yeah. It is very jet age styled, and it's about 7 feet long and massive. Just
It's the Heinkel what? Heinkel 111?
Yes.
no.
Taurus?
Yes.
That's the predecessor model.
Oh.
This is the ground-based version, the HE103A2.
Yes. No, the 111 was utilized for dropping bombs on London, darling.
Yes. It suddenly went out of favor.
I thought we were talking about
Does
message
this one have
splits or something
sirens
like
on it like the
that.
previous model?
Yes, something like that. There you go.
Yes.
That's a cool looking fucking bike, dude.
It is.
Yeah,
It
thanks.
is really rad.
It's
looking.
super cool.
That's cool.
Yep.
But you know
The amount
what?
of
What's even
floor
cooler?
space is
It
amazing.
sounds like my 69 VW bus.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's total German air-cooled sound.
Nice.
And this was actually my very first bike. This is what got me started on riding and scootering and
Oh,
everything.
that's cool.
I have,
And
to, I have to say though, the exhaust note, it's a little throatier than I expected with a scooter. It sounds good.
I
Yeah.
totally want one of these. This is a beautiful piece of machinery.
Well, you'll want it until you ride it, because it really can't get out of its own way. The best way it was described to me when I first started riding is that a Heinkel accumulates speed in the way that a savings bond accumulates interest. So it has a top speed of about 55 miles an hour, but it's a very comfortable bike. It has a nice big seat. It's a very heavy bike. So the 175cc engine really has to work to get it going. But once it's going, especially on the flat, it'll just cruise all day. And it's very, very cushy, comfortable, very nice riding position.
I think it's worth noting here, Bagel, to explain that the bike was very much designed and built for a purpose. And it's a touring scooter.
Exactly.
Basically, to get around post-war Germany in just a very sedate manner, not using freeways. And it's a great place to be if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And if you flip it over, you can bathe in it.
It is vaguely bathtub shaped. I like to think it looks more like a 50s refrigerator in the rear.
It totally does. Some of the side accents look like the door handles of a 50s refrigerator.
Totally. Yeah, it's got really cool styling.
Yeah.
And this was actually one of the very last Heinkels produced. I've only ever seen one with a higher VIN number than this bike. And it's a 1965, right when they were closing down the factory.
Is this the one that you brought over to my house and we kind of TIG welded it up a little bit, or is that the different one? Oh,
Yep,
okay. Yeah.
That's the same
Cool.
one.
It's all, and it's those welds are holding?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so far so good.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Congratulations on getting another bike on the road.
Yeah, thanks, Liza.
I actually did some work on my KZ today. And Emma, you had told me that it needed new exhaust boots, and you were right.
Yes.
I pulled back the electric tape to find out that one of the boots, the whole entire lip where the carb attaches, was missing.
Oh,
The entire lip was gone.
Well-
There was a ragged edge, like
Oh dear.
rat chewed it off, or something. It was really weird.
Well, we all like living on the ragged edge, darling. But
Yeah.
yeah. So how did you fix that? Have you ordered some new ones? Or
I haven't ordered anything yet, but I got it off. That's the good news. I got the carb out. I got the boots off.
Okay.
Halfway there.
Reassembly.
You know,
Well, you know what I
have
found
a set
strange?
of carburetors for that bike. What, Jim?
I was going to say what I found strange about that bike, because, yesterday, we kind of went over that bike fairly well.
Mhm.
Everything else was sorted out. No damage, nothing messed up on it. Why carb boots are trashed? That seems so weird to me.
I have a theory.
Yeah.
Because, I think that this bike sat for a long time, and that's why everything's in pretty good shape. What's the first thing you do for a bike that's been sitting a long time?
Cry?
Take the carbs off and clean the carbs.
Oh, that.
That's the one thing you're going to attempt. And probably in taking the carbs off, because they weren't even really reattached, and everything, because it was so old and rotted, fell apart, and they just abandoned mission. That's my guess.
Or maybe they tore them when they were trying to get them on or off and put them back on. The bike wouldn't start, and they're like, "Fuck it, just parked it or something." Huh?
I think that's
How bad are they torn?
Hmm?
How bad are they torn or messed up?
Oh, it's the entire lip where the carb goes in is missing.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, back in they still do, but the Japanese manufacturers always favored synthetic rubber. I mean, it's more of a neoprene because of its heat-resistant capabilities, but it gets very, very brittle. It becomes like plastic.
Yeah.
So you think I can get some new ones from Sudco?
Yeah, I think so, but you're going to have to get clever with the measuring because they're not going to list them. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go onto the Sudco intake things for the Mikunis and just get the dimensions.
That's why I got them off. So
there's nothing special about them.
exactly.
But I will give you all a unique insight into Emma's mind. So I too have a bike that's been sitting for 25 years. And you're doing the carburetors. What does Emma do with a bike that's been sitting for 25 years? She restores the speedo. Okay, so that is step one. That is a restored 1971 Triumph Trident speedo. That's the very first job I've done.
That's because for somebody like myself, or for most of our listeners, I think the best thing to do is to make sure the bike will run before you invest more time and money into it. But for somebody who's as good of a mechanic as yourself, you'll be able to make it run. So might as well just start from one end and go to the next and restore everything.
And that's an important distinction because we had this conversation this weekend where the real money is on bikes. Where the real money is on bikes is bodywork. Hang on, I'm going to fix it.
Yeah, that's making horrible noise.
About that.
Okay.
So where the real cost of restoration on bikes is paint and chrome. That's where you're going to spend just thousands on paint and chrome. And rebuilding an engine, it's gaskets and a few bearings. I can usually rebuild an engine, any engine, for way less than $1,000, even a complex engine.
Slide that mic closer to your mouth.
Wow. How about that?
Oh, yes. Okay, that's better.
Yeah, give me a break, darling. I've only sobered up in the last hour or so.
I'm still nursing a very sore head from last night. Oh, God.
Ooh, I want to
no.
get to some news. First thing, if people haven't seen any of the posts I've been sharing about, but my latest venture, the Black Hills Moto Film Festival, is happening. And there's Bagel's wearing the Santa Cruz Motorcycle Film Festival shirt.
That's the merch.
That never happened because of Rona. Well, the Black Hills Moto Film Festival is happening during Sturgis Bike Week in August, end of August. And this one is going to be online. And wait for it, it's free. That's right.
Ooh.
It's free. We are making this free. We are putting up 3 nights of films for you to watch. Free. This is our gift to the moto community because this year has been a crappy year for us. For all the events, rallies, rides that have been canceled, we're all kind of missing and need to get reacquainted, reconnected with all things moto that we love. So we are making this film festival free. However, you still need to get a ticket so you'll have access to it. And if you go to revsisters.com, that's where you can follow the link to the Moto Film Festival and get your ticket. And if you haven't seen it on the Recycle page, I made a nice little trailer with a teaser with a bunch of the films.
Good work on that, by the way.
Thank you very much. So get excited and spread the word. We want to share this with motorcyclists around the world. Like I said, it's our gift. So go to revsisters.com and get your ticket.
Are these new movies or classics or what?
This is it's a little bit of everything. The thing that's cool is that so there exists not a lot of moto film festivals. There's PDX Portland, there's Toronto, there's one in Italy, I think. There's not a lot. There used to be one in New York. So, but none of them were online. And so there's so many great films that exist out there that are a couple years old, some that even won awards at these film festivals, but you still haven't heard of it or seen it. So we're curating new films, we're curating old films, we're curating films that no one's seen, curating films that have won awards. We're putting them all out there because the world needs to see this.
I have some news to share. It's slightly on a sadder note, but we like to bring the news when we can. A British motorcycle racer, Ben Godfrey, was killed today in a race. Ben was a very competitive racer. He was only 25. He was generally considered one of the guys to keep an eye on. And he was involved in a collision and he sustained to his injuries. So it's news. It's always sad when a motorbike racer dies. But
what race was it?
I think it was. I think it might have been a supermotard race. I mean, I'm getting the news secondhand. But it was one of these like suburban races on a smaller track, and I have a suspicion that it might have been a supermoto race. It might have just been a short track, but I only got the news myself like about half an hour ago, so I haven't been able to research it.
Sorry to hear that, man.
You know, to anyone who's followed Ben or is a fan or family, you know, it's my condolences to you all. It's a dangerous sport.
Yeah.
You know?
And Knock, you had something you wanted to say before that?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to ask if how many movies are you showcasing? Did you say?
Well, some are feature length, some are ultra shorts, just a couple of minutes long. So we're still curating it. We don't have our final number, but we're trying to get a good solid 3 evenings of films to watch.
Oh, right. So how many do you have now, though? Are you allowed to say?
No. Because we've only notified 4 so far. And those are the 4 that are in the trailer that I used as a teaser.
Okay.
No, we're still getting more films coming in. There's still some that we're going after that we found that we want to share. Cool.
So,
don't know yet. It's going to be a great blend. But
it's going to be brilliant.
I will tell you that you will see a man riding a tree.
Yeah.
Do you feel it's a tree or a log? You know,
Well-
I think it's a log with tree tendencies.
What was
Well-
once a tree is now a log.
I thought it was fascinating, you know, because we went through the first film festival, and which was a lot of fun, amazing entries, all good, unique stuff. But after seeing the trailer for this one, it looked way better. Like, these are some really interesting films, and I was really surprised. The quality of the trailer was great. I thought your editing was well done, but the content looks really interesting, like different, you know, something different.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much and give it away, but it's worth.
Well, we're
checking
having, and so there are some from the Santa Cruz Film Festival, some that we're carrying over, but yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. In other news, it was announced earlier this week that Sturgis Bike Week is happening, and
It's happening.
it is happening. And I find it interesting when you have some events like AMA Vintage Days canceling or postponing, then you have events like Sturgis. But it was voted on by the city council, and I think that's a bigger part of it, because other events like AMA Vintage Days, it's not really bringing money into the local community. It's bringing into AMA. Sturgis Bike Week is bringing into the entire Black Hills community, to all the businesses. And so, you know, I'm not going to pass judgment here, because on the one hand, if they don't have it, it's devastating to the whole community of South Dakota. And if, on the other hand, if they do have it, it may be devastating to the lives of some people.
You know, it's crazy that in 2020 there's still just like communities that thrive or only merely exist because there's one large event that provides them revenue. You know, it's crazy. It's just, you figured we'd be past that by now, but I guess not. It's just how that is.
Well, no, and that's worldwide, Knock. I mean, a huge part of the revenue generated for the Isle of Man is the TT races and the Manx Grand Prix. If you, and you know, when they stopped that, that was a decision they didn't take lightly, because there was a massive part of the Isle of Man's tourism that just went.
Yeah.
And livelihoods were ruined when they made that decision. But, you know.
So the only thing I have to say for anyone attending Sturgis Bike Week, have fun, live large, be safe. That's it.
Yeah.
I think those are mutually exclusive, Liza. You can't necessarily live large and be safe.
Yeah, you can.
Well, yes. But I thoroughly endorse both of them.
You can ride a milk crate being dragged by a mini bike down a
There's
dirt road.
nothing safe about that, darling.
And still be safe. Yeah, so I'm a bit jealous too. I mean, for a lot of people, it is their lifestyle. People come from around the world for that. So,
don't be jelly, Liza. You can come to Hollister with me.
Oh, yeah, I'm considering it. I'm on the fence about going to.
I'll be crushed if you don't go. Crushed.
Well, the other opportunity is going dirt biking at Hollister Hills. So
Well,
I think I'm probably going to pass on Hollister this year.
Hollister Hills or Corbin?
Corbin. I mean, you know,
Okay.
we've been there. We've been going there
Right.
for years. I got 3 Corbin seats and all that. But I think, you know, this might be my year to pass, because I got a feeling it's going to be elbow to elbow with a crowd that ain't going to give a shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
You know, Mike himself, he said he was expecting about a quarter of what he normally gets. But I think he might be downplaying it. I think, you know, there's so many people have kind of I'm not going to say politicized it, but they're defying it. And as you say, they're going to make a statement, Jim. And it'll be interesting. I mean, I reserve the right. If it gets too crazy, I'm gonna bounce pretty quickly.
But I'll also say, you know, Mike is a smart guy, and he's not going to do anything stupid, I don't think. So I think it'll be a good event. And just like no different if you're going to anything else, and I think Liza spoke to it, just do what you need to do personally to keep yourself safe.
Right, exactly.
And go have a good time.
We're all grown-ups here, so
Exactly.
I'll be wearing my mask. I'll be trying to maintain a distance of at least 6 feet from anybody else. Unless
It
it's
is fun
Sonny
to think-
Barger, in which case I'll
It
plant
is
a
fun to
big
think about-
smackaroonie on his lips.
about Corbin because there's cool stuff there. I think one of my favorites. I'm sorry, like you want to say something. One of my favorites was just seeing like these Patch Club guys. That's one conversation. But the bikes they ride, these ratted out, hard ridden, super custom chopper shit. That's probably my favorite thing. Is look at these hard patch dudes and their custom bikes that they ride. It's pretty fascinating.
Oh, sure.
I think for me, like my favorite memory is taking a picture with Mike Corbin, Craig Vetter, and Sonny Barger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Like that's like going to this is that's the world you're in. I'm like, holy shit, three legends.
I think I took that picture, and I also took the picture of Emma giving Sonny a big smooch on the side of the head.
Yeah.
And I got to say, Emma giving Sonny a big smooch on the side of the head is a little bit better, just slightly.
Yeah.
you know, and so many of my British friends who are also involved with patch clubs have said that is easily my favorite picture of you, Emma. So that's become
awesome.
something of a legendary picture, me and
He
Sonny.
squeezed his head like a big watermelon.
Yeah, well, resistance is futile.
Oh, yeah.
Well, hey, that's still 2 weeks away, but I want to talk about today. Because today
I
is
was
special.
nursing a sore head.
Oh, yeah. Do you guys know what that is? Go ahead, Knock.
Yeah.
You know what that
Is
is.
that the Notorious B.I.G. version or the other version?
John, this one is for you. You don't realize
A
it.
girl I know actually has that as her ringtone for me.
Hey, John, I like it when you call me Big Papa.
I love it when you call me Big Papa.
So, John, you got to join us for Father's Day, so let's get to know you. How about that?
Okay.
So you come to us from south of here.
I do. Well, at this moment.
Apparently, you live at a junction.
I do. I'm actually in Scotts Valley in a hotel room right now.
Wait, everyone smile. We're getting a picture taken. Yeah.
But I come to you from Paso Robles.
Oh, I know Paso
wine country.
Robles so well, yeah.
Yes, we stop to pee there all the time.
Oh, and there are other things there that are useful too. Some people consume liquids that immediately become visits to the pee department. Yeah.
You know,
I think Knock buys his meth there.
Yes. One of my favorite breakfast joints is actually a Touch of Paso.
Oh, Touch of Paso in downtown. Yeah.
Downtown Paso, and all the waitresses are like 90 and they're very surly and like,
Oh, for sure.
throw your breakfast at you. There's your breakfast. Now shut up. I love
Breakfast
it.
with attitude. Yeah.
Exactly, but it's a fabulous place. I love a Touch of Paso.
It has changed so much over the years that I've lived there. I moved to Paso about 13 years ago from San Francisco area, east bay of San Francisco.
Cool.
And it has changed a lot, but it's fabulous food, great wine, but far more importantly, fabulous motorcycling.
Oh, good
Yeah.
Lord, yeah. You were so lucky down there.
And one of my favorite roads is down there too, Webster Road.
Sure.
Heading-
Otherwise
yeah.
known as your private racetrack. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, it's so much fun to go down that. Every time I go down there, I hit that road.
I live on the north end of that road.
Nice.
So you mentioned to us earlier that you are riding the Triumph Tiger 800. What else you got?
Oh, a few other things.
Uh-huh.
So I have two Triumphs. My other Triumph, when it's more of a sporty situation, is the Street Triple R.
That's a
Ooh.
great
very
bike.
fun bike. And then for off-road, KTM 690 Enduro.
Oh, yeah.
The former Adventure Tourer still hanging out in the garage, which is a BMW 1150 DS. And I've got a Supermoto DR 650.
Oh, well, you know I love
wheels
that
and
thing.
suspension and things like that. Very fun little beast. And then
Perfect.
last but not least is a 2018 Goldwing.
Whoa.
Nice.
Got to have something for the long haul.
Yeah.
Wait.
You
It's
got
a
everything. You got the
eclectic
good set right
collection,
there, man.
John.
But you're missing something.
Uh-oh, what did I miss?
Bagel, what would you recommend? What is he missing?
You need a Vespa GTS 300.
There you go.
A good choice. How could I possibly get to Touch of Paso for breakfast in the morning without a Vespa? That would be ideal.
So, yeah, good collection of bikes. How long have you been riding?
Pretty much my whole life. So I got my first bike when I was 8 years old, and I've had one ever since.
Wait, did your dad get you that bike?
No, he did not. He was not uniquely excited about the idea of my getting a bike, but I grew up on a farm. It's nothing but empty space in every direction, and most kids around me had something like a motorcycle. I stole my brother's inappropriately and rode it a lot. Got in a little bit of trouble, and so I had to buy my own.
And what bike was it?
So my brother's, which is literally the first bike I rode, was a 1964-ish Honda. I think it was called a C110, a 50C.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is that a C or a CT?
I think it was
No, C110. CTs haven't been invented yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I rode that on and off for like 6 months until my brother pretty much pummeled me to death, and then my first actual bike was a Honda CL100. It was kind of enduro-ish 100cc bike.
What? And how old were you when you got that?
Would have been about 9 or 10.
Wow!
Right around there, yeah.
Wow! What do you save up your paper route money or something?
Almost exactly, yes. There was a lot of quarters involved. So the advantage you have as a kid on a farm is you get to sell produce. So I would sell stuff from the farm. I would sell flowers, paper route. All that money went to buying my first motorcycle.
Wow! And you've had bikes your whole life?
My whole life.
Even when you got married and had kids?
I did. In fact, my daughter that contacted you. This
one is she hiding behind you?
She's hiding back here somewhere.
Yeah, I saw her.
Hiding in the back. She got a motorcycle as a Christmas gift from her dad. Very nice guy, I've heard. And at about 10 or 11, right around there, I got her first bike and has been riding ever since.
That's a good dad, man. That's a good dad. That's a dad we all wished we had.
Everybody in the family got a motorcycle from dad.
Nice.
Right.
Nice. And so what have been some of the other bikes you've had along the way that you wish you still had?
Oh, gosh, the ones I wish I still had. In high school, I had a 1971 BSA 650 Lightning.
Yeah, that's a great bike.
Great bike. Fix it every day and ride it every day.
Okay, I just have to, you had that in high school.
Uh-huh.
Did that make you popular with the ladies?
It was uniquely interesting when I rode it to school regularly. Yeah. Advantage there. Yeah. It also needed an awful lot of fixing. It got repaired very, very frequently. But it was a great bike and definitely one I wish I still had. Love to see it.
I got a question for you. What was your first big long distance tour?
Long distance tour.
Yeah,
so,
when you're like multiple days and you're like, oh shit, I'm doing this now.
Yeah, so certainly in high school, I rode 1 to 2 day kind of rides around the area.
That's awesome.
But the first really long trip would have come a little later. In college, I rode from New York to Miami and back. So that probably would have been one of the very earliest really long rides.
Yeah, right on.
Oh, that's cool.
And what bike did you ride? Was that the BSA?
No, that one was I had fairly recently bought it new, a 1979 Suzuki 750.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it was that first generation of four-stroke, four-cylinder Suzuki.
So the Goldwing that you have now, is that a DCT?
It is a DCT.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's my first, I did a test ride on a VFR 1200 DCT way back when they first came out.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, particularly for this role, I think it's awesome. Really like it.
So are there as many ways to adjust as there is on the Africa Twin? Do you have all the power, engine braking, all those settings?
Not as much as the Africa Twin. You can customize more on the Twin.
Okay.
On the Goldwing, you have 4 basic ride modes. And then on the transmission, it does affect the transmission in terms of, when it shifts, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But most fundamentally, you just throw in either automatic or manual, and in manual mode, you use the paddle shifters. The other big difference with the DCT is it's a 7-speed gearbox. The manual Goldwing is a 6-speed gearbox.
So you have a lot of bikes. You've had a lot of bikes. You know how to use a clutch. Do you feel like the DCT is going to become more and more common on more and more bikes?
I do. I think there's a lot to sort of get over in the marketplace for people, like me, who lived their whole life with bikes they shifted, and it's kind of a manly thing. You should have shifters.
Yeah. Did you hear that, Jim?
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Jim? He was just saying to David, I like to shift. I like the clutch.
I do too, but a long time ago, sports cars went to paddle shifters, and Formula One drivers use paddle shifters. I think I can live with a paddle shifter. If they can do it,
Okay, I hear you talking smack about me. I'm listening with my earphones. I'm putting the bike on the ramp.
Because
So don't take my comment out of context. I'll make an analogy like this.
Okay.
I told Liza I like the challenge, the personal challenge to me of shifting properly, braking properly, coming into a turn at the right speed. Don't get me wrong. We did that adventure class last week, and 80% of your brain is taken up with clutch control, shifting.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much of your brain is consumed until you ride a DCT. So I do get the attraction.
Yeah.
But like we heard one time, some people still like racing horses. Some people still like doing cannonballs on 1909 motorcycles. So I like the electric bikes. I've ridden them. I've crashed them. They are fun, but I still enjoy all the technical aspects for the discipline required to ride a bike correctly, so to speak. And I know you can apply the same things.
Are available to people.
I like them both.
Yeah, they should still be available. It shouldn't go away. It's especially given that most of motorcycling is sport-oriented. It's recreational. It's fun. It's enjoyment. So you should have the option for it. The DCT has certain advantages as well, and I think both there's room in the market for both.
Yeah, but
I just want to make the comment because for me, it's not a manly machismo thing. It's just it's like other mechanical items. There's a cool intricacy to how they all go together, and it's fun being a part of that machine. That's my perspective.
And you can't really just rationalize it. It's just like some people like fucking carbureted bikes that you got a kickstart. You know what I mean? It's the intangible of what makes motorcycling awesome. That is, if you wanted a fucking DCT, you can get one. It's nice having those options.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Can I jump in here? Because I think this whole DCT thing is going to follow a very similar evolution of what's already happened on dirt bikes. And in dirt bikes, there was a lot of conversations in the mid-70s that single-shock dirt bikes would never catch on, and then they were everywhere. Then the conversation in the mid-80s were four-stroke dirt bikes would never catch on, and then they were everywhere. Then there was the conversation with carburetted dirt bikes will never catch on. Then they were everywhere, and then injected. And then finally, the final incarnation in the last couple of years, electric start dirt bikes never catch on. And now they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was going to compare to the other market that's already shown the path, and that's the automotive market.
Yeah.
How many manual cars are available now? How many young people know how to drive a stick shift car?
Yep.
Not that many. They've gone the way of the dinosaur. They really have.
Question I'll bounce off Knott because I think he's our resident. Him and them are resident experts on this. What about MotoGP and their philosophy on non-shifting motorcycles? I mean, when will we see that at the MotoGP level?
It's already there to a certain degree where they have auto blippers and they still have to manually shift up and down.
Right.
I might imagine at one point they probably can have paddle shifters, but I think they just still can go faster with manual actuation, So
I don't know. I don't know. Liza's DCT will wheelie like a motherfucker, and it seems as fast as electric bike off the line. So that would be one thing to talk about is why is it MotoGP going to electric non-shifting bikes?
In a way, I think one of the reasons, MotoGP could have gone with electronic suspension, but part of it too was just it was the cost. There's also there's a money game involved with just racing. Yes, it is like the pinnacle of technology, but at the same time, they're still trying to make it competitive. So cost could be a factor,
When you think about sponsorship, all revolves around, gas engines, suspensions, all this kind of stuff. So it's probably a lot more complicated than obviously I realize. But.
Jim, I would actually say in racing, you need to have as much control as possible because you're not always doing the same thing around each time. Every track is going to be different, and every lap is going to be different, especially when you're trying to pass or draft or do whatever. So to have a bike that is already kind of designated of how it's going to respond, you need to be able to be much more impulsive in racing because you're riding at that level. That's what
that makes more sense to me because these guys are so ridiculously good at it and probably are so in touch with the machine that I could see them, that probably makes as much sense to me as anything.
Well, you have to also too, like the way they ride is just way more consistent than your average person riding a street bike or even like a regular track day rider, Like these guys are like literally 2% off each other's time. You got a 100-second lap and a guy comes in like at 98 seconds or 98 seconds faster than the other guy, or whatever, 2 seconds faster, and it's
Yeah, I mean,
transmission, if you take it apart technologically, it's not just the automatic nature that's the advantage.
Yeah.
Right. And many of those advantages are already there in the MotoGP bike. The constant mesh transmission, for example, they went to the cassette constant mesh quite a while ago. The dual clutch strategy with the instantaneous shift, right? They've got that already. So the only thing they're missing is literally the automation of the shifting. And on my DCT, I throw it in manual an awful lot and take advantage of the dual clutch and use the paddle shifters, but don't necessarily take advantage of the computer making the shift decision.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm just kind of fascinated by the DCTs that are out there and the different levels of control and input that you have. And the Africa Twin, because it's going from touring to dirt to, twisties to bumps and logs and rivers, it needs to be able to have all that range of adjustment. But the street bikes don't need it. It's much more predictable. So I'm just kind of fascinated by that and the future of it. I think it is going to be more and more common.
I think so. Yeah.
I think more bikes. The more people are, I think it's going to be awesome if they could port this into smaller displacement bikes like the way Honda's doing right now. The NC750 or whatever has one with a dual clutch transmission. If they can port it down to like borderline scooter level where you get a 500cc actual motorcycle with a dual clutch, that'd be pretty awesome. It opens up the eliminates an entry barrier for a lot of people, I'd imagine.
It does. We need that.
Hey, I wanted to jump in real quick because, John's here because this is Father's Day, and I had some people send in stories of their fathers. I wanted to find out who were great moto dads out there, and I wanted to share some of these stories. The first one comes from actually my friend Shana. And instead of her writing in about her father, she wrote in about her husband, Eugene, because he is a father to 3 small children, and he is getting them into writing, much like John did. So this comes...
And hey, Eugene. They are an awesome...
Yeah, from Shauna. She says, hey, this is for Eugene Sanderson. So he wasn't a father when we became street legal riders together over 10 years ago. He was a father to 3 when he spent days bringing a Ninja 250 back to life and teaching me how to wrench when I told him I wanted to ride 3 years ago. He took me to a parking lot and helped me to reach a comfortable level to hit the street. His love, dedication, and patience has opened a whole new world for me. Now this year, he has once again spent endless hours fixing electric dirt bikes to teach our 7-year-old twins, hoping our love of the sport and the community is reflected in our kids. Even if it isn't, I know they will be better humans for growing up in a moto household.
Oh,
so nice. That one is for Eugene Sanderson. So, how many kids do you have, John?
2. My daughter's the elder, Brianna, and my son, Brian.
And do they both ride?
They do.
Nice.
They both grew up riding dirt bikes with Mom and I. Mom has a motorcycle license as well, my wife, Debbie. And we had a set of 4 dirt bikes, a pickup truck, and would many, many weekends go to either Hollister Hills or Carnegie or up in the Sierras and go riding on most weekends. And then both of them ultimately got street bikes and street licenses as well.
That is so nice.
That's cool, man. Super cool.
All right. I got another one for you. This one is from Gabriel. And he says, hey there, Misfits. I don't have much of a story, but I ride because of one person, and that person was my girlfriend's dad. He was all about motorcycles. I would fear the sound of his engine coming around the corner on his Kawasaki Concourse when he didn't know that I was dating his daughter. And often when I came over, he would be watching motorcycling videos on YouTube. I honestly just didn't get the obsession with motorcycles. I was so scared of them whenever I got close to one. However, it was something he really loved and something his children really identified him with. About a year and a half ago, he passed away from a battle with pancreatic cancer. And in honor of him, my girlfriend wanted to learn how to ride a motorcycle. So we signed up for the MSF course together and passed. Needless to say, if it wasn't for him, Albert, I would never have dreamt of touching a motorcycle.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Sorry, I'm sorry for the passing, but that's a really great way to like continue a legacy and remember someone.
Yeah.
So, John, let me ask you this. As a moto dad, how do you think it makes your kids better people by being a part of this community?
Yeah, really good question. I think a number of things that come to mind. One is in our household with multiple riders going dirt biking every weekend. It was impossible for me to keep up with, wash the bike down, change the oil, all that kind of stuff. So everybody in the family, including the kids, had to do that for themselves. So I think that was the first thing, is they learned, whether they liked it or not, the rudimentary parts of maintaining their motorcycle and the responsibility that went with it. You don't get to ride if you don't take care of it. And so I think that inculcated a little bit of that sort of sense of ownership of things in a real way. I think there's another aspect. In motorcycling, you sort of reap what you sow. If you ride well, you have an enjoying day and everything goes well. If you don't ride so well, things are not going to go so well, and it may not be very happy. You might get hurt, that kind of thing. And so it encourages you to get skillful. And it helps you learn that personal skill matters. It's an important part of your life. And then a selfish side for me, besides the fact that I like motorcycling and I wanted them to like it, I looked down the road and realized, having been a teenager once, just how crappy teenagers can be with parents. I was a pretty awful teenager. And I figured the one thing that my kids possibly would still enjoy with me when I was pretty much dumber than dirt and they were about 16 would be motorcycling. They probably would not turn down going for a motorcycle ride. So I think the other thing it did for me is it gave me a way, no matter what age they were at, to do something with them that they wanted to do. I didn't have to put a gun to their head.
Yeah.
I think that was a useful thing to them and to me over time. And we're attempting to deploy that strategy for the next generation.
That's a good one. It's so funny. It just made me remember. I was thinking, wait, was I a horrible teenager? I don't remember being horrible, but I do remember being 15 and going through a little punk rock phase and going to the big family Thanksgiving dinner at my grandparents' house wearing a leather studded choke collar.
I'm sure that went over big. That was
Oh my God, you have this?
No, and I had a skunk bleached hair,
Oh my
God. Just like mine?
Doing on my turkey with my studded choke collar like Sid Vicious.
That's amazing.
What an
Very cool.
embarrassment. I know. All right, I got another one. I love these great stories of great dads. This one is from Ian. He says, hello, Misfits from Sydney, Australia.
Good night, mate.
Just thought I would share one of my memories with my dad and what I think set the tone for the lifelong love of motorcycles. Living in the Blue Mountains in the 1980s, it wasn't all houses and people. You still had a little room to roam around. Mom was out, and it was decided that I would go and visit one of Dad's mates. Dad rolled out the Honda XL 500 out of the shed, and I was so excited. Being just 4 years old, I sat on the tank and held onto the crossbar as we rode through the bush tracks. No safety gear, just freedom. Dad popping wheelies and taking little jumps off of the erosion banks along the way. When we got home later in the day, he said, now don't tell your mother. So the first thing I did when she got home was tell her all about the cool stories and how the big jumps were absolutely gold. I've had a bunch of cool bikes as I've grown up. Now I have a drag racing habit and run shed-built racing. I race a Turbo Busa drag bike
Oh,
Ooh.
7.3 at 190 miles per hour.
Goddamn,
Whoa.
son.
And
Goddamn.
have
What's his what was his handle again?
shed built racing.
All right.
And he says, I have a couple of other bikes, a Turbo ZX7 street bike, a Madass 125, 4 scooters, and a couple of China's best dirt bikes in the shed, but I still need more. Anyways, thanks for a great show and many laughs, Ian. Oh my God, I can picture that kid holding on for dear life.
You know what's cool is like when your parents are the first group of people to show you what like an adrenaline rush is like, you know? A lot of the times, like for me, it was trying to steal a fucking G.I. Joe from like Safeway or some shit like that, you know, or like a drugstore. Shove this thing down my pants real quick. But going up jumps on a motorcycle, that's way more productive, I think.
So, John, did you ever have any close calls with your kids riding that made you think maybe as a father you shouldn't be getting them into this? Anytime you almost regretted it?
So not really too much when they were not on pavement. You know, in the dirt bike world, one of the nice things about it is a little more forgiving, and you don't too often, have risk life and limb. My daughter did succeed as a 16-year-old high school student borrowing my dirt bike because hers she managed to get a flat tire on when we were out riding one day for the primary purpose of showing off to a bunch of high school boys who happened to be at the Carnegie off-road riding track, and managed to pretty much destroy herself, cut up her leg and, smash the bike a little bit. So that wasn't such a good idea. But more recently, now that everybody rides on the pavement mostly at much higher speed with much more risk, my daughter did have an off-road excursion with her street bike here not too long ago, and unfortunately got pretty badly injured.
Ooh.
I was off riding the Continental Divide Trail for a couple of weeks in the hinterlands of Montana, and that was honestly really hard to take, to have a call that said she was in the hospital and gotten injured riding a motorcycle. It made me briefly sort of regret ever showing her how to ride a bike. But she's recovered, she's fine, and she's doing really, really well. So that's probably the best answer to your question is that, yeah, I have to say I had a period of time of regret.
Yeah, I have to say that has to be hard as a parent, that you do take on that risk that might happen, and then you have to have that guilt. But you also have to remember all of the passion and love that you've shared and given them. And, if they keep on riding, it's because you've instilled that passion in them. So I think it's all worth it. All right, I got one more, and this is from our friend Michael Shannon. This is a good one. He says, so my buddy Glenn just got his 1968 Honda S90 Sport running a couple months ago, and I told him I thought my father had one back in the day, so I texted my dad, and this was his response. Why, yes, I did. Wayne, your uncle, he brought one back for us from Japan while he was in the Air Force. It was a 1967 or 68 model, and you rode on it with us when you were less than 6 months old. Within 5 to 10 minutes of cruising around, you'd be sound asleep. When you got a little older, I'd put you in front of me, and we'd go out around the hood until you fell asleep on the tank, which you always did. I sold it to buy a Yamaha 350 two-cycle street, had to mix oil with the gas. It was a screamer. Sometimes you'd cry when I didn't take you on it. We used to ride that 3-up all the way to your great-grandma's house in Paradise. Sold that so we could buy the VW van that you knew and loved. Somewhere there are photos of slides of you on it, and also your great-grandfather on it. Isn't that a cool story? I love that he would just, that's how they put him to sleep, fall asleep on the tank.
that's
awesome.
Great.
And he says, met you all at the one show. New Jersey Mike is my favorite misfit. He ain't so tough. The rest of you are great too. Love the show, especially the Gary Davis episode. Keep up the good work.
Nice.
Yeah. And he sent a
cool.
bunch of pictures. Oh, here's a great one. I assume of his dad and him. Can you guys see
Oh
that?
wow,
Oh,
that's
nice
cool.
pre-unit Triumph job.
Yeah, right?
That is a good looking bike.
Yeah, cool pictures. So I have one more story I want to share, and I want to prepare you guys that this is not an easy one. Okay? This is for the fathers out there. This is for all the parents, all the bikers. This one is from Mark, and he
Mark.
is a helicopter mechanic from Idaho and a big fan of the podcast. He loves the stories that we tell and the banter and the information we provide. But he's coming to us with a very difficult and large request. On May 26, 2020, my neighbor's 11-year-old boy was tragically killed in a UTV accident just down the road from our house. Much like most 11-year-olds, he was very special, but Tripp, that's his name, and he in particular was an amazing kid, a friend to everyone, always lent a hand, always outside playing in the dirt or snow, and will always be remembered as a ripping dirt biker. Tripp was my buddy. We lived next door from one another in rural Idaho for 4 years, and he was regularly helping me wrench on bikes, telling big fish stories and sharing fart jokes or tearing up each other's turn tracks. The request that I have is to perhaps mention the GoFundMe set up to assist a family, and if it's not too much trouble to share it in the episode notes, and I will do that. Tripp's family, they're devastated, as is the community. It took 2 helicopter flights and a bunch of procedures to try and save Tripp's life, which created a huge hospital bill. And neither of his parents are working at the moment because of the whole COVID situation. So he just asked if we can share the GoFundMe for Tripp, and I will share that in the notes and on our recycle page. And it's a sad story, but I love to think of Tripp. I wish I had a Tripp. We almost got a Tripp when Owen came by the other week. I love that kid who rides dirt bikes and wants to hang out and wrench and do stuff. That is a cool ass kid.
But
and something I'll say, and Liza, Emma mentioned this earlier about another racer that had passed, and I never told you this, Liza. I have a friend of mine whose son died at Barber, and each one of these kids, like all kids, they're so special. So you hear these stories about a young man passing like that, and some of us maybe other kids. They're all so uniquely special kids, and you can totally picture this guy, and it really hurts, So let's support this whole thing. What a small
I'm
town.
donating.
Small town.
There's absolutely no question, but it is worth mentioning. Motorbikes are dangerous things. And no matter how much we try and stack the odds in our favor, tragedy can strike. You can get hurt, you can get killed. And I think, without trying to sound blasé about it, because that's the last thing I'd ever want to do, we've all looked at the risk and decided it's acceptable. And in my case, this is my life. And it's given me, I've had a 40-year career and just a 40-year love affair with motorcycles. And I've had wrecks. I've been injured quite badly on bikes. You've picked up the debris more than once of me, Jim. But I
have picked up your debris. Yes, I have.
I wouldn't change a minute of it.
Yeah, Liza's got a picture of this kid, and
if you're with us watching the Zoomcast on YouTube, that is Tripp, and he looks like a cool kid.
Hey, Tripp,
it's like
I'll meet you in a few years, Betty.
Yeah, but like a lot of these young motorcycle kids, at least the ones that I've been around, they're such hard-charging, fearless, awesome. You're like, I can't wait to watch you grow up, because at 16 or 14 or 18, you're doing all this cool stuff, and they always seem to be really grounded, but I don't know, very interesting kids. So that sucked. But thanks for sharing it, because like Emma spoke to, that's motorcycling. I mean, it's not motorcycling without that.
For Tripp's parents, this is the double hit, so to speak. You have the terrible circumstance of your child dying this way, but you also have the reason for the GoFundMe is
right.
unfortunately, you have the medical cost side of it, which can be a second devastation. So it's an awesome thing to try to help out with at least the second. We can't fix the first.
Right. Well said, Tom.
Yeah, well said.
There you go. I published it to our recycle page on Facebook, so anyone can find it there. But let's bring it back up a little bit. Why don't we? So, Knock, when are you going to be able to ride again?
Shit, maybe I'm hoping 2 to 3 weeks. I'm making sure that everything's fused together and super dandy before I get going. You know, part of it too is I got to develop more muscle, and I have to start like a workout regimen and like a PT kind of a situation.
I think it's amazing that you can say all that without moving your face at all.
I know, right?
Incredible. No, your screen's locked, Knock.
Yeah, let me.
But at least it was a flattering picture.
There you go.
Oh no! Go back to the picture. The picture looked better.
No, I found you a little serious in the still picture. You know, you were glaring. No, it wasn't that look. No, it wasn't that look at all. But this is better. This is the smiling Knock. We like the smiling Knock.
Yeah, no, I just got to be able to do this with my other arm. You know, do the friggin' windmill.
Like you just don't care.
Right, because part of it is like I ride supermoto a lot, and I have to keep my elbows up. And right now, this is like it hurts and it's exhausting.
Just so you know, I can't go that.
Yeah, I know. This is real.
So
like the whole like shoot and pull thing with the fucking motard.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm trying to do.
So here's the deal, Knock, and I've been there, so I'm not asking this out of thin air. How do you genuinely feel about getting back on a bike?
I can't wait to get back on it. I was like in the garage the other day, starting all my bikes up, making sure that because I haven't ridden, in like 3 months, making sure I'm ready to roll. So I'm ready to go on it. I have yet to kickstart my XR, but I'm pretty sure it'll start in like 2 kicks or something.
No nervousness, no trepidation.
No, I mean, look,
Right
the thing is I knew exactly what I did wrong, and I know how to avoid it. If I didn't know, that would have been a different story. Because I've had crashes where I didn't know what was going on or what happened, and it did make me nervous. And if I know what the problem is, usually I can fix it.
Right.
Or make adjustments to it anyway, so it doesn't happen as horribly.
Okay.
So, Knock, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, you should be paying attention right now. So when you change a tire on a 21-inch rim, right? Do you put the tube in the tire before you put it on the rim, or do you put the tire on the rim and then the tube in the tire?
I put one bead on, and then I put the tube in inside the rim.
That's the way to do it.
Sneak it around, yeah.
So Jim watched a video and found a different way to do it. Jim,
you could definitely. Some of the guys who do the rally type stuff, they have to do fast tire changes. They have a tube kind of prepped in there.
So Jim, that was a first for you today. This was your first tire change.
Wait, did this involve flames? I gotta ask.
No.
It can in just a second. Wait, where's my lighter? I'm not lying, No, it was interesting. So, we ride a lot of dirt, and, maybe not a lot of dirt compared to some people, but enough. And eventually, you're going to get a flat. And I had never changed a dirt bike tire or a tube, whatever, right? Which is silly, but whatever.
How hard can it be? They do it on the side of the road in Baja, right?
How hard can it be, right? And, yeah, I know how hard it can be. That's why I'd never tried it. That's why I would just take the wheels off and drop them off, and, $25 later, I got my wheels done. But in all seriousness, and Emma, I'm sure, can preach to this, is you got to know how to sort your wheels out on the road. So it was kind of cool. So I got the TTR 225, which is the loaner bike that came from SFMC Clay. And it hadn't been ridden really in a little over a year probably. So flat tire, running kind of like garbage. But I'm like, hey, this is a great chance to learn how to teach yourself how to do tires. So the way I learn is I have to be hands-on. I can watch videos. Someone can tell me all that kind of stuff. But I don't learn unless I actually have, and for me, hands-on is making the mistakes, right? Like I'm listening to you, but right now I'm in the shop and I'm starting to take this 225 apart. I'm going to clean the carbs. And I usually break things fixing it, right? So anyway, so we get it. I'm like, well, let's take this tire down there and we'll do it. but I had to make the mistakes. And everybody, Liza, thank you very much for, hey, can I help you? And other people, can I help you? And it's like, no, I'm going to
Johnny, it was painful watching him, wasn't it?
It was occasionally very painful.
Jim was very much, no, don't tell me how to do it. I wasn't trying to tell you how to do it. It's just a three-hand thing, and it's always good to have one person just to hold the spoon.
One extra hand could have made all the difference.
Yeah.
One observation, in the beginning, I was totally by myself. Liza had said there was this little wheeled cart we used for doing this, which was handy, got into the shade. I was totally by myself, looking at my little YouTube video, step by step. I had the tire off in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, Liza sits down, hey, I'm just going to hang out here. Then she begins holding court, as Yuri said, actually. There's like 5 people standing around me. Everybody's pointing at things. What are you doing? How come that's not working? Blah, blah, blah. And but anyway, I was doing fine until all the advice started coming in. But I knew there were different ways to do it, right? So the reason I kept going with the way I went, which was to put the tube a little bit inflated into the tire first, put the valve stem into the hole, put the nut on loosely, then work the tire in, is because basically I'd already committed to that path. So let me try it. And if I pinch the tube putting it in, well, fuck, it's nothing new to me. So I'll pinch the tube putting it in, and then maybe I'll try a different technique. So I went ahead and put it in that way, and it worked. And I totally struggled at the end getting that last bit of the tire on. So it really was helpful for you and John to kind of say, hey, let us lend a hand. And all it really was just holding one of the irons in place while we got a couple more over. Right. But so that was helpful. But the reason I was so resistant is, yes, I'm curmudgeon-y and old and stubborn, but it's also I know that's how I learn. And if I don't make the mistakes, if I don't strip the screw on the carburetor, if I don't break the head off the bolt, apparently I don't learn. So it was a great learning experience. And I got the bike on the lift right now. I'm taking the carb out, and knock on wood, the tire is still holding air.
So, Emma, the reason that one would put the tube in after is just you don't want to risk pinching the tube while putting the first tube on? That's it?
And, the thing I want to stress, which goes against what a lot of people think, you need to partially inflate the tube to fit the tire.
Yep.
Particularly if it's a new tube. If it's completely flat, you're going to pinch it. You actually need to put some air in it and actually get it so it's kind of tire shaped.
Right.
And then stuff it in.
And I did notice as I was spooning it on, a couple of times I sure as sugar had the tube pinched under the tool. So it's totally, I can see how easily that could happen.
Right, exactly.
I have another question for you, and this may not make any sense at all, but I usually put heavy duty tubes in my tires.
Yeah.
And over the last few years, I've had 2 heavy duty tubes tear the valve stem. And that was the cause
because, okay, so you're running them at too low a pressure.
That's what I said.
That is the only way you're going to tear a stem out. Now, back in the old days, and to a certain extent it's still true, you'd use a rim lock. Anytime you're below 15 pounds, and probably 20 pounds if you've got a high-torque dirt bike. What do I mean by a high-torque dirt bike? John's KTM is a great example. It's a big single-cylinder dirt bike. Thing would pull a friggin' tree stump out.
Emma.
The Africa Twin, not so much. There isn't a great deal of, pull-away torque. But
Emma.
Knox 650.
Emma, hold on.
Yes.
2 things. First of all, when you say in the old days, I don't know if you're talking about the 1600s, so you got to clarify. Second of all, this is on the front wheel. There is no torque on a front wheel.
Oh yeah, there is. When you brake hard, you've got the full momentum of the bike, and you're braking, so the tire is going stop, and the weight of the bike is pushing it forward.
But maybe this is the loaner bike, Jim, because we don't really use our front brake that much in the dirt.
That was the thing I could see on the street totally, but on the dirt, why? And the valve tin was just ripped right the fuck out.
That's why it's so weird.
Yeah, I mean that's an entire pressure thing. I've seen plenty of dirt bikes with security bolts on the front wheel.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. What's funny is I have it on this little bike, but on the stock CRF 250, it comes with no rim locks. It has the pre-drilled holes, which is convenient.
But
And when I changed out to the Moto Z's, I forgot to tell them to put a heavy duty tube in.
But
you know, and I kind of rid the piss out of that thing, and it holds up just fine. So who knows?
But you know, it's exactly the same. You're going to hear me preach, and it's the same conversation I've had about batteries. You get exactly what you pay for. So if you go into AutoZone and you buy a Duralast heavy-duty battery, it's still junk, even though it says heavy-duty. You buy a Yuasa battery, and so it is with tubes. You can buy the heaviest duty tube, but if it's a crappy make, it's going to be a crappy tube. It's just going to be made out of thicker rubber.
So let me ask you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I used to always do this up until the Honda hasn't given me problems. But as soon as I got a new dirt bike, the KLX, for example, didn't come with rim locks, but it did have the pre-drilled hill.
Right.
Pre-drilled hole. So when I had the new tires put on, I said heavy duty tube and throw a rim lock in there. I mean,
well, that's only half the conversation.
I mean, should you just always kind of like, hey, because a rim lock's what, like $6 or something like that?
Yeah, you know, if you're riding dirt and you're seriously riding dirt, $6 for a rim lock and a heavy duty tube. If you're buying a decent tube, when I say a decent tube, I mean Bridgestone. Bridgestone are my favorite tubes, but you need a mortgage to buy them.
Well, I got a question.
I'll show you what I got.
Your bike doesn't come with rim locks OEM, Jim?
No, it doesn't. You know, it's funny, my Honda didn't,
Almost
the
none
KLX
do.
didn't either, which is interesting. So
Yeah, KLXs don't. Generally,
You can install
Trail
your own,
bikes-
right? Like just drill the rim and put in a rim lock, or is that something that you
I
shouldn't do?
think the Honda's pre-drilled, but you know what? So
yeah, you
here's
can
one-
drill a rim.
So here's one thing where I thought I would have ripped the valve stem out if I was going to, is riding dual sport on the 250 on asphalt is downshifting real hard, so the rear wheel locks up as you're downshifting.
Yeah.
And I thought if anything's going to rip the valve stem off, it would be that. But I haven't had that issue with the Honda, and I've done it a bunch. So I don't know anymore.
Right.
Just luck. I think you're the lucky or you're not sometimes.
Yeah, but you know the only way you're going to tear a valve stem out. What brand is that?
Bike Master.
Yeah, Bike Masters are okay. They're kind of middle of the road.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, we'll find out.
Yeah, no, generally Bike Master. I think that's Tuckeroki's own brand, and you know, if the importer put their own brand on it, generally they're okay. You know, I like to say I'm a battery snob, and I'm a inner tube snob as well. I like Michelin's. They are light duty though. I love bib mooses. They're great. If you're riding dirt, it's a bib moose. Look at that. Look at that lovely Yuasa. That's a thing of beauty, Jim.
Only Yuasa.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to ride a bib moose on the street. But if you're riding dirt, bib mooses are great. Bridgestone tubes are by far my favorite. But you know, a heavy duty Bridgestone tube's like $40 now.
Yeah, this one was 24.
Yeah, so you know,
Yes,
tubes
Liza?
are getting expensive. But generally, the adage: if your bike has tubes, every time you change a tire, change a tube.
Hey, I wanted to jump in and say we have another dad who has joined us.
Oh, Dad! Yes.
Hey.
It's award-winning Mike. Happy Father's Day.
Hey. What up,
what's
Daddy?
happening? How you guys doing?
Pretty
We're
good.
doing good. How you
How's it
doing?
go?
I was just sitting and being quiet because Freya's opening up some toys.
Ah, thank you. Hi, Freya.
Hi.
Freya, did you say Happy Father's Day?
Aw.
Oh, show them your new toy.
What'd you get?
They want to know what you got, Freya.
Did you get Freya?
Oh, you turned the camera off, Mike.
Show them what you got, Freya.
What'd you get, Freya? Because this makes riveting audio for a podcast. Did you get a motorcycle?
I see.
Okay, someone interpret.
Got an LOL doll. A baby.
Oh yeah, I know those things. Yeah, lol dolls.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Sorry, I jumped in late. I was working at the house all day.
that's all right.
Yeah, I bet.
Just got back in.
We were talking earlier. We were talking earlier about great moto dads who get their kids into riding, like our friend John with us. And Mike, you've done that too, right? She likes to ride around on the bike.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I was trying to debate whether to bring both of the little mini bikes over and start riding around there yet. But I mean, like, it's a quiet neighborhood, so I thought I should bring the big bikes over first, just so they know who's in charge around there.
Well, how far are your neighbors from you, Mike?
What?
How far are your neighbors from you?
Well, like, but I got one neighbor's like 200, 300 feet this way to the right, and then I've got another set of neighbors like kind of up in the woods next to me. But I got 2.5 acres, so.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
stock pipes, so they'll probably won't hear it.
Yeah, well, I got a big ass garage too, so I can open it up. Wait till you guys see the garage. I hooked the whole thing up. I got pull down electric. I got a.
All right. Are we moving the recycle garage to your garage?
Yeah.
And what's with the randos on the weekend fucking your shit up?
Oh, does that mean I can get rid of everyone now? Have my son back? Thank God.
Yeah.
All right, Emma. Mike, you need to give Emma your address, so we'll start sending her over to your house on Sundays.
Yeah.
My house, 3,000. Well, I'm not going to say it online.
Okay, very good.
Don't dox yourself, man.
It's pretty cool. Like, I got the garage set up for motorcycles, and then like if you guys want to do, like the movie nights, like vintage motorcycle movies, I've got this huge white wall in the garage with a 4K projector put on it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Bikes or seats or couches and.
Would you be open to running Moto GPs on the weekends? And what the season and stuff? I got an account, so.
Yeah.
I like what you think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. But I was also thinking about how to set up the new track around my house. And there's a couple places, like the old homeowner built this kind of retaining wall where he used to back his truck up to and just roll the bikes into the yard. The front yard's fully paved. I could fit probably about 40 motorcycles in there and still have room to party, right? But I was thinking, like, if I made a ramp there, and then there's like another like thing, and then you could rip up there on the mini bikes. You're in the yard, and then you rip up a small ramp past the garden, and then rip back past the house. Just don't hit the generator, and then you're back on the pavement, and you get back down. It's a huge track, and we could totally do flat track racing and still have people partying in the middle.
I think if you really want to show your neighbors who's the boss, we need to go about 2 feet into their yards.
There's a whole bunch of
Very neighborly indeed, huh?
There's like 4 foot, 5 foot tall blackberry bushes in between us. So, kind of like the boundary, on the other side is it. So.
Nice. Hey, Misfits, for those of you who I sent some emails to read, can you get those ready? I want to read some emails and answer some questions.
Yeah.
Plus, we got some good feedback. Who has one ready to read?
I got one.
Go ahead, Not.
All right, this one's from our friend Steven Gardner, and it's titled "A Wife Got a Scooter!" Exclamation mark. Finally have my wife on 2 wheels. She bought a Kimco like 150i. Would you ask Bagel which website he would recommend for parts and accessories? I feel all the motorcycle websites don't really have anything at all. Closest scooter shop is about an hour away. So I think he'll end up ordering some stuff online to get the little things as needed. He feels like there's a secret scooter underground. There's definitely is. Like a dark web for scooters, or scoot web, if you will. So, yeah. What do you think, Bagel?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not that familiar with Kimco's, never having owned one myself.
Never mind.
But I do know that there are a lot of Kimco dealers out there. So any Kimco dealer that does mail order should be able to send you parts, I would think. AF1 in Houston, I believe, is a Kimco, or not Houston, Austin, Texas is, Phil, I believe, a Kimco dealer. And Phil?
I remember he had K-pipes at one time.
Well, that's true, but I don't know if he really does mail order, though. You can call and see if he might be able to send you something if you need it. I'm trying to think of other shops that I know for sure specialize in Kimco. I'm sure that there are some out there. I just don't know them off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, like I said, try Kimco dealers to see if they'll send you parts, or AF1 in Austin. Those would be my recommendations.
Is this person based in Austin? It didn't say here. I think you might have gotten a version of it to it.
No, but AF1 does mail order, so they can order online
okay.
and have it shipped to them. Yeah.
I love that he thinks that there's a dark web for scooters.
I wish that there was enough enthusiasm about scooters to necessitate a dark web, but maybe someday.
Buying parts with Bitcoin, untraceable.
Right.
Hey, it's pretty easy. Just go to your local downtown, look for the dude carrying a motorcycle helmet and wearing flip-flops. That's your guy.
But like from what I understand, there's a total, aside from the whole underground thing, there's like a huge, awesome scooter culture, and she'll probably get into that. You know, if anything, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Emma, I sent you an email. Did you get it to read?
No, let's have a look. Yes, I did actually. So let me go on to my email. Here we go.
Okay.
This email is from Tim.
Yes.
Tim Clifton.
Yes.
Hey, Misfits. This is Tim from Baltimore, Maryland.
All right.
You may recall that I emailed you back in January expressing my love for the Mimi and Moto books and sharing a photo of my daughter Vespa on a CRF 50 with her Mimi and Moto shirt. I remember that very, very well.
He's another great Moto dad.
He is. Anyway, he continues. At that time, I also had a trip scheduled in May to visit the garage while I was going to be in the Bay Area for work.
Right.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, that trip naturally got cancelled. I was really looking forward to meeting you all, and I was stoked to ride around the Redwoods, the PCH, and everything else in NorCal. Oh, well, this just means we will have to reschedule once this crazy shit calms down. Well, that's not very dad-like language, Tim. Come on now.
Or is it?
Or is it? I mentioned in my last email that I'd built my own electric motorcycle. Well, here's a photo of it, albeit a boring photo since you can't see the innards, complete with me in a sweet Misfits t-shirt. Thanks. Keep up the great work for the motorcycle community, and I'll get out there for a visit sometime in the future. And get well, Knock.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Great email, Tim.
There you go.
Nice.
Looking very handsome standing next to his electric motorbike, I might add.
And then, Bagel, did I send you one?
Yes.
You ready?
I have an email from Noah Eastman.
Yes.
And Noah is from British Columbia, Canada.
So go ahead and use that accent.
Yeah. So Noah says, good day, Misfits. I'm wondering if you can help me with my dad's 1980 Yamaha 250 XT Enduro. It has a tick in the top end. I've checked and adjusted the valves, but it just didn't change how bad the tick is. I want to get it running better because I just got a 2019 Yamaha 250 XT Enduro, so I want to go riding with him. If you can help, that would be awesome.
All right, Emma, tick in the top end. Did the valves. Is this going to be
it's flat cam,
tappets?
isn't it? Yeah, it's flat cam.
Yeah.
It's a flat cam.
You want to just take a second and explain what that means?
So a flat cam, and it's very, very common on single-cylinder bikes because they're very, very tall. So remind me what bike it was, an XT...
250.
It is
XT
250 Enduro, yes.
Yeah. So if you imagine the oil pump is at the bottom of the engine because it has to pick up oil from the pan. And it's got to pump it all the way up to the very, very top of the engine to the camshaft.
Yeah.
In an XT250 or really any other late model Japanese bike, the camshaft is the greediest out of everything. It needs the most oil.
Yep.
So it's got a long way to go, and if you neglect the oil a bit, the camshaft's going to suffer. So what happens is the valves are open and closed by what's called lobes on the camshaft. And if you were to cut the cross-section of a lobe, it'd be a nice kind of egg shape. It'd look like an egg. And when they run dry on oil, the egg gets a flat bit on top. And the bit that rubs against it, which is called the rocker or the follower, also gets a corresponding flat spot on it. And as the sharp edges of the flat spot, you hear the click, 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 click. Unfortunately, it's an engine out job. Engine out, you need a camshaft and you need followers. It ain't cheap. And when you put it all together, you need plenty of camshaft assembly lube. So camshaft, followers, follow the instructions, camshaft assembly lube, and the moment that engine fires, you've got to brake in the camshaft, and this is very, very important. So you bring the engine up to a specific RPM, say 2,000 RPM, and you hold it there for about 15 minutes, and you brake in that camshaft. If you've got a big floor fan, that's perfect, especially if it's a chillier day, because you need to get some airflow over that engine, because you're just going to be sitting there at 2,000 RPM braking in your cam. You've done this job, Knock.
Yeah, I actually wanted to show you that where
yeah, there you go.
Oftentimes will wear with the rockers, and this is what I pulled out of my XR. The cams are completely fucking dusted and flat, but it's gotten to a point. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, past the point of the hard facing on the rockers, and it's actually eaten into the parent metal. And so my bike was still running, and it was doing crazy wheelie shit, and it's a fucking Honda, right? But like, this is how bad it was, and it was.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't sound that bad. I mean, running downstairs in my stilettos are louder than your bike,
right?
But the carnage, and remember, you're losing metal.
Yeah.
And that metal's got to go somewhere. So sooner or later, you're going to plug up the screen in the bottom of the engine. XT250s have got marginal lubrication anyway. So, you know what? Fix it. Sorry to be the bearer of doom and gloom, but I ain't going to sugarcoat it. You got a flat cam.
And I was actually going to say, when you do that job and you're ready to break it in, give me a call. I'll give you Mike's address. Go over there. That's going to be the place you want to hold it open, because he wants to show his neighbors who's the boss. What better way than to do that?
Yeah, that'd be about right.
Than to break in a cam, right?
Yeah, we got good work lights, no dead possums,
There you go.
I like it all.
and stuff.
Hey, I got one more email to read, and this is a good one. And this goes back to a few episodes ago when we were talking about cool tools. And Claudia, she sent us in her favorite tool, which is a chain alignment laser.
I have one of those. Those things are awesome.
Wow.
She says, so she says, I really like my chain alignment laser tool. It makes it super easy to align the wheel after changing tires. Attached is a picture. It's from a German website.
It's called the ProfiCat.
Yeah, it says, let me see. She's still stuck in her home office. Things aren't quite back to normal yet. But lots of people on bikes and on the roads. This is in Corona in Switzerland. Restaurants are open. Public life feels very much normal. The Swiss borders are open again. We went to Italy last weekend for some off-roading and no problems. And I get lots of newsletters at track days have started back up all over Europe. So things are getting back to normal. This is the chain alignment laser. I don't have one of those.
You don't need one.
Why?
You don't, but it's nice to have.
It's nice to have, but you can do it with string.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, I like buying cool tools.
But it's a
I know
laser.
That, but I'm cheap, so I like doing it with string.
But it's a laser.
Yeah, it was just the laser part sold me. I was like, laser technology, I'm going to look right into it. Oh, awesome.
Can I stick it on my head?
So, John, do you do your own wrenching?
The majority. As I've gotten older, I've gotten lazier and a little more likely to drop it off to get basic stuff done. But I've got a fully equipped garage and do all the oil changes and valve adjustments and that sort of thing.
Right. So, do you have a favorite tool?
Oh goodness, a favorite tool. Well, lately I have a favorite tool.
Oh, let's hear.
Yeah, it's multi-purpose,
Oh.
and it's a laser.
What?
So I have a laser temperature gun,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
you're awesome.
right?
Yeah.
But it has a whole new purpose in the COVID era. We keep it by the front door and we shoot everybody's head when they come in to see what the temperature of their screen is. And now
You
we
know,
know
I-
if it's safe to come into the house or not.
Yeah,
I
nothing
can
personal. Just
think-
stand still.
I can think of nothing better than shooting strangers' heads with a laser.
What could be better?
Exactly. No, that's the best. Because
Hey,
it's
so
a
I have a
freaking
question.
laser.
I have a question. John and I were chatting earlier, and he was going through all the bikes he's owned, and going from the BMW to the Tiger, I thought was interesting. But I'm curious, like John, do you have something on your radar, like maybe a monkey bike
Ooh,
or
good
a
question.
Ducati, or is there something
Or a
kind of
Vespa.
Or Vespa.
what might be down the road for you?
So most of the bikes that I have fill most of my needs. Sport bike, off-road bike, tour bike, that kind of thing, adventure tour bike. I rode when they were still experimenting with it. I rode the Harley electric bike, the Livewire.
Yeah, Livewire, yeah.
I have friends in the industry and had a chance to go ride it when they were still designing it. And that's the first time I rode an electric bike, and it was quite intriguing. So what's kind of on my radar is like a Zero maybe, or something like that. I think an electric bike would be a lot of fun.
That's cool.
That's a good
Now that
one.
you're into Triumphs, I can see you on a Triumph Bobber. I think a Bobber looks pretty good for you.
Bobber's pretty cool. I'd like the Scrambler even, the 1200 Scrambler,
Yeah.
pretty neat. Yeah.
Scrambled eggs.
Jim,
I
just so you
love
know,
those things.
It looks like you're wearing a tiny hat.
I am. Shoots out the top.
Well, John, I think that Jim's question is a perfect segue into our next question. And I hope you know what this question is, because we ask all of our guests this question. But I didn't prepare you. So, John,
Here we go. Here we go.
It's going to be off the cuff and made up then.
and I hope your family can hear this question right now.
This is
They
the
can.
question
They're
that
here in the
made
background.
Keanu
And I
Reeves
hope they
nervous.
don't know what this question means.
I'm reasonably confident, having listened to all of your
Okay.
podcasts from the very first one, what this question
Okay.
is.
So, John, I want to know, what is your up the butt bike?
Oh boy.
Gotcha. 1973 Kawasaki 903Z1.
The man knows. The
Oh.
man knows.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one, dude.
So in 1973, when the Z1 came out, I was in high school at the time, and I put a deposit down on one to buy one of the very first ones in my town.
Oh, wow.
And then the girls were involved. I had a date, and she really thought that I should own a car because it would better dating equipment. And I
Yeah.
took the deposit back and bought a car.
Aw.
Yeah. That's
The
all
girl
right.
was gone, but if I had kept the Kawasaki, I'd still have it.
And the interesting thing, John, it's the 754 gets all the limelight because it was the first. But, oh God, I'm going to upset some 750
Oh,
Honda
here we
owners
go.
now.
Trouble's about to come.
But that fucking Z1, it is just so glamorous. And it's light years ahead of the Honda. The Honda, as nice as it was, and everyone knows I like 750 Hondas, but even at the last one in 78, it still looked like a 1960s bike.
Hmm.
That Z1, that was a rock star looking bike from the moment it rolled off the line all the way through the Mark IIs up till 1980. It was a
You know what?
brilliant looking bike. They just crushed the styling.
They're
Crushed
so
it.
cool. They're so cool. Kawasaki made a modern version of it
They
called
did,
the
and they did the
900.
modern
Yes.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
It's
good.
nowhere near it. I tell you what, though.
I agree with your comments. I think the 73, the original style, is still the prettiest motorcycle of its era.
By far.
It's like the Camaro of the motorcycle.
Agreed. And its original root beer color that
Yeah.
And
Camaro.
And what was interesting, that root beer color, they actually sourced that paint from 3 different suppliers in Japan. And
there are 3 different shades to it. And it's got nothing to do with engine or frame numbers. You know, it's who grabbed the paint can that particular day.
Mhm.
And they're all accepted at concourse events.
Oh,
And
really?
there's quite a variation between the 3 of them. They're all basically the same, the root beer and orange.
Yeah.
But there's quite a variation. But just crushingly handsome bike.
Well, and speaking of nice paint, we had a beautiful bike visit the garage this day.
Yeah,
Oh,
you had
yeah.
a Gold Blimey 500.
We had a
didn't you?
Gold Blimey 500 in that
Oh, wow.
beautiful, beautiful dark green.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so Gamora came by, and she's had this bike, I think she said like 8 years, so quite a long time.
Oh, it's Gamora's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she has a couple of cool bikes. Yeah, that was a sweet ride though.
But everything looked beautiful on that bike.
Hey, we talked about it a little bit, but talk a little more about like why did Honda run with that? Where did was that just like the flavor of the month at the time? Like why did Honda develop a
the GB
knockoff of a British cafe racer?
So we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Honda's attitude from day one was, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter whether you're old or young, it doesn't matter whether you're sporty or what, I'm going to make a bike for you. So once you understand that logic, you understand why Honda often went out in left field and built bikes that you think, what the hell were they thinking? Because they were going to make a bike for everyone. And Honda always were very, very fascinated with British cafe racer culture. And this was long before the resurgence worldwide, really in probably about 10, 15 years ago. There was a second resurgence in the late 70s and very early 80s when a film called Quadrophenia came out. And there was a resurgence of the mod culture and the rocker culture. You'll remember it very clearly, John.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
And that was kind of like the first resurgence of it. And the GB 500 kind of rode on the tails of that. It was just a factory cafe racer. I've got mixed feelings about them. If they weren't so damned expensive, I'd like them a lot more. But you paid a great deal of money for that bike back in the day. And Honda did better bikes for less money.
I have a question, though. Name any modern retro production bike that was successful. None of them are. The modern Z that we're talking about, the W650.
Oh, they're all sales flops.
They're all flops. Any modern retro has been
Honda built product line.
Hold on a second. The modern Z is a flop? Do we have actual numbers?
Compared to other bikes?
You mean the Z like the Z900?
Compared to other bikes? Like, what are you talking about? What's deemed a success? What's deemed a failure? Because it's been in the lineup since 2017.
Well,
yes, I know, but the Z900 outsells it 4-1. So for every one of the retro Z900s they sell 4 of the Z900s. You know, the transformer-looking one. 4-1.
Sure, I mean, but it's like a different era, though. You know, like
but it's a limited market.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, I like them, but you know, it's a mixed bag for me.
Yeah. No, I get you.
I like, you know,
I like the real deal. I know you like the real deal, and I know there's an emotional component to like these old school bikes that you're into, and I totally get it. It just the new stuff, just that kind of new stuff is it's contrived for some people, And I get it.
And I think you've nailed it because, the GB 500 was just a little bit contrived for me.
Yeah.
I can remember it coming out, when it first appeared and seeing it in the dealership at the time. And it seemed to be both expensive for what it was relative to its performance. And it felt like a bit of a Honda styling exercise to go out.
Yeah.
It didn't feel authentic.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And, it's right next to it was the Hawk GT, which ran cheaper.
Except for the gas tank. It was awesome.
The thing I find fascinating, though, all of these modern retros are a flop. Oh, and Mike has to go. Bye, Mike.
Take it easy, Mike.
They're all flop, but they all become highly collectible after.
They do.
Yeah, because they sell in
Because of
such
the
few
rarity.
numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, I
the rarity.
remember in the mid 90s, so the GB being like an 89, 90, and by like 96, you could still find them in crates in warehouses. Like people just wanted to dump them because I think up until like 10 years ago, I still heard of people finding crated GBs, but now they're worth like 8-10 grand.
Right.
It's amazing. Same with the Cowie, the W650, and now they have the new W800,
800,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is a cool looking bike. But I remember when that W650 came out, I went, "Oh, that's interesting. It looks like a fake Triumph.
You couldn't give them away.
It looks like a Chinese knockoff of something."
Exactly, and now they command quite a price. But
Yeah.
here's an interesting conversation I had with my then manager, Jim Leonard, at Monterey Peninsula Power Sports. So the new retro Kawasaki came in, root beer and orange. So this would have been it was the end of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, boom! Emma, you got to buy this bike. It's completely you. And so I looked at the bike and I liked it very much. And he would have done me a killer deal on it. But then I went on to the Japanese aftermarket parts website. And I realized to make it the bike I wanted, which meant was the headlight would have to go, the turn signals would have to go, the wheels would have to go, the exhaust would have to go. And so we'd end up with wire wheels, chrome turn signals, chrome 4x4s. And I was buying a $9,000 bike, and then I would spend 12 on it to make it what I wanted. And it just didn't make any sense.
We were down in Vegas, 3 years ago, Liza, for the AIM show, and we test rode a ton of bikes. Yeah, Knock, we were on that ride. You rode a Kawasaki, a small displacement, right? But I rode that Z900 in the root beer kind of red color, beautiful. And I tell you, that bike rode sweet for an inline four, and I like the inline four.
Oh, they're bitching bikes.
But you know what it struck me as? I've been out of, I used to ride when I was younger. This was the bike, bike I had back then or something similar. I want something I can ride on the weekends, maybe a couple 100 miles on a weekend and then keep in the garage. And that was the market I saw for it, which isn't a huge market, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, I wanted to make a correction because a few minutes ago I said, what modern retro has been successful. And then I remembered of some very current successful ones. For instance, the Cub and the Monkey.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, no, hang on. The Cub is not successful.
No?
It's beautifully made.
Yeah.
But it's not a sales success. And I'll tell you why. America had a love affair with the original Monkey bike. Not so much with the Cub. And I know a lot of people got their start on a Cub, but there isn't that same visceral love with it. And that is why as soon as you get a Monkey in stock, it's gone. The Cubs, you have to sell a little bit more. Now, in Europe, it's a different story. They've had a love affair with the Cub since...
And in Asia as well with the Cub, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of Cubs in Asia. The Monkey, you see that, at least for somebody, ancient like me, and you immediately think QA50 from the late 60s, early 70s.
Well,
and that's exactly, you are the target audience for the Monkey.
Then maybe the Monkey is the first successful modern retro production bike.
Well,
so I guess you'd have to contextualize it on where these items are sold, like Europe, Asia versus America, I guess.
Define success. What's a success?
Well, that's what the big manufacturer would define as success, not us.
Where would you place something like the Bonneville product line? Because it comes to my mind as being maybe the most successful.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, those are they're knockoffs of themselves.
But much as I love them, they're not great selling bikes.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Well, no, they're not. I mean, Triumph
Triumph is not a volume manufacturer.
Yeah, in terms of raw numbers, you
Okay.
could take
In
the
terms of
entire
raw numbers, I mean,
production
yeah, I
volume
think the
drop in
Bonneville and the
buckets of Honda or
T100,
Kawasaki.
yeah, it's easily their best-selling model.
Yeah.
Tell you what,
But-
I think this is a conversation that can be continued, and I'd like to hear from others out there of bikes that they consider as modern retro production bikes. Let us know if you think that they're successful or not. And also, remember last week we played that game, the name game challenge, animal named bikes, right?
Yeah, I failed.
You failed. You buckled. Emma, I'm going to give you one more chance to make up because we had some people email me. There was a really obvious, common name that we completely missed. I'm going to give you a clue. Remember I said it could be a make, model, or a commonly used nickname. In this case, it is a commonly used nickname.
A hog.
There it is.
Yeah.
We missed the hog.
It was the hog, and I mean, of course. And you know, you think of so many afterwards. There was the Kawasaki Bison, you know, dirt bike, and then you get into all the ATVs, the Kodiaks, and the so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, I thought of plenty afterwards, but I caved under pressure, darling.
You did, but you made up for it now with the hog. I can't believe we all missed that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those ones that are so obvious that you kind of like, well, obviously a hog, right?
I know.
Yeah.
So thank you to the listeners who emailed in that obvious answer that we missed.
But you know, it is a fairly typical bonehead misfit move for getting the hog. So I stand by it. I mean, we're idiots.
Exactly. And just in another announcement, we did another thing yesterday. We did a Emma and I and Bagel and Jim, and we recorded some more episodes. Yeah, the
nice. Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. And we are also, as we continue along on this journey, we are learning from our mistakes.
We are indeed. I am learning that I have to stay sober and I have to keep my clothes on.
Yes. Yes.
Still learning after all these years, huh? Still learning after all these years.
Hey, that's not the way to get clicks.
Yeah,
I know that, darling. I know that, but we're going for the family audience.
Oh, I see.
So I'm working on editing those. Unfortunately, this is yet another episode that we've lost, like we did the first time. So the first time we went out, we filmed 2 episodes, lost both of them because I bought a cheap camera that was out of focus. And this time we learned another lesson because the camera tilted down and no one was watching it. My head was cut off for half the episode.
Oh, man. But you didn't have a camera operator behind the camera?
No, because we're running 2 cameras and we only have...
Oh, okay, yeah.
The one is just sitting on a tripod. You just leave it alone.
Yeah. You don't
the
have
other
a
one
spare,
is one that's panning and zooming and stuff.
Well,
you don't have a spare monitor there. You don't have a spare screen that you could use as a monitor, do you? You can just kind of run it live.
I do. We didn't think of it.
In
Like
all
I
reality,
said.
we could have done it, except we had to wrangle a chihuahua the whole time.
This is true.
Yeah. So Little discovered that the garage door was open, came running in, was crashing our film shoot.
Yep.
Oh, Little.
Yeah.
In the cutest way possible.
Yeah.
That is true.
Can we have an episode where I just stand in the corner petting the dog and not say anything? I mean, I feel like that's the only way I can be in this without fucking it up.
Well, that's like every Sunday at the garage that you're there.
This is true. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we just film, knock with the dog next time, and we got another film.
Yeah.
So, John, you came up to visit us today, and unfortunately, still with the whole COVID stuff, it's not as social of an environment as it used to be, and we try and keep some distance and stuff like that. So no more of the naked pool parties. Sorry about that. But I'm hoping that you'll come up another time, maybe when things get a little more relaxed, and we can, pull out the baby pool, and you can jump in.
I look forward to it. It's
Hot chicks.
any good excuse to ride between Paso and Santa Cruz is a good excuse. Carmel Valley Road, Highway 1. There's all sorts of ways to waste my time.
buddy.
Ride.
Or maybe
yeah.
I'll set up the mini bike challenge course.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you like that one. Wait till you hit the teeter-totter. It's frightening.
That is pretty frightening.
It is. But it really did prepare me for a lot of the things at Jocelyn's camp. I was like, teeter-totter? I got this. Not so hard. When I built the teeter-totter and added an extra log, so you actually got really high, that got sketchy. So
wow.
I can build a pretty scary mini bike track. But John, I hope you come back again and join us. You're welcome, as is anyone else. If you want to come hang out with us on a Sunday, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing so, both here on the Zoom meeting as well as in person today at the shop. It was really nice to see it in person, so to speak, and visit. But also, let me thank you in general for what you're doing. I've been listening to the podcast since the very first one. And I really enjoy it. It's been a very enjoyable experience, and keeping up with you all and hearing all of your, let's call them activities.
Yes.
Creative activities, as well as the maintenance work that goes on. You do good service, not only with the podcast, but with what you're doing with the garage. Thank you for doing it, not just for me, but for the motorcycling community.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
thanks, John.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words, man. Appreciate it.
Really nice.
I've
you,
often
John.
speculated about why we are popular, John, and I think it's generally because we are boneheads. And it's if we were perfect, it wouldn't be very fun. But we're a bunch of boneheads, and we make mistakes, and we own it, and we have a lot of fun doing it.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. I listen to a variety of motorcycle podcasts pretty regularly, Moto GPOD, and but by racing ones as well as adventure riding ones. But you guys fill a very important niche, a sort of community niche, and as you just described, a sort of everyman feeling.
Right, exactly.
The way it is around your garage when a bunch of friends hang out with you.
Nobody could accuse us of taking ourselves too seriously.
No,
I think it's
Be accurate.
I think it's because we are a bunch of misfits, and so many people can relate to that.
I think you're
I'll
right.
say my favorite part of John's visit today is you helped me finish off the first tire change I've ever done. So thank you very much. I might still
Good
be
to be
there
able
with
to
tire
stick your
irons
hand in
flying
there.
all over.
And I'm going to take a guess here. I haven't looked at my list, but based upon the shirts that you guys are wearing at the garage today, are you a Patreon supporter of us, John?
I am.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Nice.
Cool.
And-
You had the whole collection too. It was awesome.
I know.
I do. I have the one that I'm wearing now, one of the
Yeah.
original-ish ones
Yeah.
from way back.
Yeah,
And
the best part.
my wife was rather jealous of my Misfits t-shirt, so I bought her one just a few weeks back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, thank you very much. And just I'll use that as a reminder to anyone else. If you would like to show the love and become a Patreon supporter, we would appreciate it so much. And you can go onto Patreon and type in Motorcycles and Misfits podcast. You'll find us there. And I still have some of the new shirts left. I have one extra large left and a few of the larges. So if you become a Patreon supporter, $5 or more, you can still get a free t-shirt, and they look good.
They do.
They do look
Yes,
good.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
They do.
So I think that's the opportunity to thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being a supporter. Thank you to all of our other listeners and supporters. I mean, yeah, we're doing it. I mean, we have fun talking to each other, but we appreciate so much all the people out there who enjoy our banter and just being a bunch of misfits. So thank you to everyone out there. I think we got anything else coming up other than our big trip, Jen, that we need to plan for?
Yeah, when is that? When is that?
In
End of July.
3 weeks, dude. I think.
Damn. All
Yeah,
right.
cook. I figure we'll cook. We'll just shop wherever we end up locally, and we will cook. I will cook the regional fare of.
You cook whatever we kill on the road.
Yeah,
Right.
scoop up. Or scoop
That's a
up.
lot of beef jerky, man.
Tasty stuff.
Raccoon's good. You cook it right.
Oh,
I
man.
think in July, MotoGP comes back too.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
For real?
yeah.
Yeah, I think
Oh, where will they be? Where are they at in July?
Jerez, I think.
Jerez. Yeah, I think it's in Spain. Is
Yeah.
the kickoff. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Great. Good news.
Cool.
And just-
You haven't asked yet, Liza. I
Yes.
suspect you are going to ask me to run the garage, aren't you?
Yes.
1
When will
week,
you run
2
the garage?
weeks?
The last 2 weeks of July.
Last 2 weeks. Okay, so we will rename Recycle Garage to Emma's Reign of Terror. Are you listening, Bagel?
Can I,
Real mystery hole. The real mystery hole.
can I
That's
make a
right.
recommendation? I would like to hear it named Emma's Cozy Cave.
Oh,
There's
gross.
always plenty of room in my cozy cave for all my chums.
It's a damp and moist cave.
That reminds me, Emma, we haven't done a
Humid.
history hole in a while. You want to do a history hole next week?
Yeah, I think I might do a history hole next week.
Do you need any recommendations?
Well, I always like listener recommendations.
I do too. They're always really good.
Well,
They're
I
smart, we are.
I suggest you send in a recommendation for a history hole right quick, so I
Yeah.
can do a little bit of research.
And how do they reach us?
That's a very good question.
Recycle Motorcycle Garage at
You got a
gmail.com.
motorcycle, you ride to Santa Cruz. You
There
show
it
up at the
is.
garage. That's how you reach it.
Yeah,
There
you
you
can
go.
show up
That's the best one.
or send your email to recyclemotorcyclegarage at gmail.com. You can also go to motorcyclesandmisfits.com. You'll find a contact link there. That will also get us through. So I think we're ready to get out of here. Don't forget to go to revsisters.com. Get your free ticket to the Black Hills Moto Film Festival. And send us the email with a history hole. You guys ready to wrap it up?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
This is Liza.
This is Doc.
Emma, darling.
Bagel.
John?
Take it, Jim, son.
Hey, and we are out of here.
Bye.
Cool.